Welcome to CBSR's webinar focused on closed-loop strategies from the Transformational Company. Today's session is being supported by the National Zero Waste Council. The National Zero Waste Council was involved in the production of this webinar, but also supported us in the production of the chapter on closed-loop strategies from the Transformational Company. So thank you. For those of you not familiar, the Council is a leadership initiative bringing together governments, business, and non-government organizations to advance waste prevention in Canada. It was founded by Metro Vancouver in collaboration with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in 2013. And the Council has united, among others, 5 of Canada's largest metropolitan regions, Metro Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Halifax, and Edmonton, with key business and government leaders, academia, and nonprofit organizations in a call for national action and systems change to address waste generation. So thank you to the National Zero Waste Council for your support. Following my introductory remarks, we're going to be joined by Coro Strandberg, the author of The Transformational Company, longtime associate of CBSR, and principal of Strandberg Consulting. And she will be followed by Paul Murray, who is the Vice President of Sustainability and Environmental Affairs at Shaw Industries. Shaw Industries is a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway and is the world's largest carpet manufacturer with more than $4 billion in sales annually. And Paul will be followed by Amandine Johnson, the Sustainability Officer at Keilhauer. Keilhauer is a family-owned corporation that was started in June of 1981, and they are focused on the manufacture of high-quality commercial seating and furniture. So your office is going to be well-equipped following these 2 talks, and both Paul and Amandine have a very interesting closed-loop story to share from inside their organizations. So there will also be an opportunity after all of our speakers to ask some questions. So I would ask you to hold your questions until the end of the session. And at this point, I'd like to turn things over to Coro Strandberg. Coro.
There, Steve. Welcome everyone. And it just occurs to me that all of you participating today are what I would think of as futurepreneurs, basically the architects of a new economy and the next industrial revolution, which is really the aspiration of the closed loop or circular economy. So anyone listening in today, obviously we hope you'll be as excited as we are about the prospects of this new paradigm in business. I am going to, in my remarks, introduce the transformational company qualities, and particularly the closed loop quality. I will describe some circular business models and give you a very high-level overview about why companies are pursuing this as a strategy and how they are pursuing it as a strategy. This visual here sets up the research that CBSR and I have been doing together for the last few years on the qualities of a transformational company. And just a little bit about that idea and how they were developed. About 2010, CBSR's members were asking CBSR for more information on the new best practices in corporate social responsibility, and they were very interested in sort of a new breed of company, which was at the same time transforming its own business model while it was transforming its external operating context to steward the company and its value chain and society to a sustainable future. So this launched research into the new frontier of corporate social responsibility, which resulted in the development of 19 qualities or criteria. And today we are going to be speaking about the closed loop quality, which is number 10 in the project. And just skipping along to say that here we see a list of qualities, just so you can see how the closed loop quality fits in. And we're activating here today, wherein the transformational company guidelines reveal that transformational companies implement closed loop production and advance a circular economy. The material that I'll be sharing with you today is found within a guide on the qualities of a transformational company, which is available on the CBSR website. And it's also informed by research that I've been conducting for the National Zero Waste Council, wherein we've created a toolkit on the circular economy, a how-to guide, which will be available about April off of the website of the National Zero Waste Council. So basically, the circular economy, as we all well know, is an alternative to the current linear take, make, use, and then dispose economy that we live within today, which is a system, the old system, that relies on the availability of large quantities of relatively cheap materials and inputs in the production of goods and services, and that generates significant volumes of waste. That's the linear economy. Instead, the circular economy keeps products, components, and materials at their highest use and value at all times. And in practice, this translates into preventing waste through new and innovative business models or through improved design, either for disassembly or for longevity. It also translates into maximizing the continuation of a product's life through reuse, repair, or remanufacturing. And it also generates improved end-of-life processing and looks at opportunities for resource recovery. So a circular closed-loop business basically is increasing the use of its physical assets. It prolongs their life and shifts its resource inputs from finite to renewable resources. So with that as a general definition of the circular economy and a circular business, I would like to share with you research that's being conducted by Accenture. They studied over 100 companies that were active in the circular economy and discerned 5 circular economy business models. So from the top left to right, we can see here reference to the circular supply chain. So this is relevant to companies who are dealing with scarce commodities in which they are replacing them with fully renewable, recyclable, or biodegradable resources. The second business model type is the sharing platform, which is enabled now by technology, and this is centered on the sharing of products and assets that otherwise have a low usage rate. The third business model is product as a service, and this is companies that start to offer product access to products rather than ownership of products, in which they use a lease or perhaps a pay-for-use arrangement versus the conventional buy-to-own approach. The next business model is Accenture calls product life extension, and this is where companies extend the life cycle of their products or the components of the products by repairing, upgrading, and reselling used products or components, giving them a longer life with existing or possibly new customers. And then lastly, recovery and recycling. And this business model is one which recovers useful resources or energy from byproducts or waste that's generated through the production cycle. So these are 5 business models for a circular economy. They could be relevant to your business, and opportunities to look into those different examples which are explained in greater detail in the Circular Advantage Accenture report. Now, briefly, why would a company advance on this path? Why are we starting to see these innovative business models? So I'm just going to, at a very brief level, high level, go over what are some of the drivers of this new business model. Sustainability trends, of course, are a powerful driver of innovation for companies, particularly population growth, material scarcity, and changing customer expectations. So what we're seeing, of course, is that a growing and urbanizing global population, scarcity of non-renewables such as metals, minerals, and fossil fuels, and declining regenerative capacity of renewables, that being land, forest, and water. These challenges are necessitating a rethink of production and consumption systems, which are themselves based on an assumption of unlimited and cheap natural resources. So with these looming resource shortages driven by the anticipated population growth with 9 billion people by 2050 and an increasing middle class, so with these looming resource shortages, rising and volatile commodity costs, also new technologies, government regulations for extended producer responsibility, landfill bans, and changing customer preferences are all driving a shift in this business paradigm to a circular economy model. Basically, dependence on scarce natural resources for growth is exposing many companies to serious risks going forward. So I'm just going to give you a very simple checklist of other business case drivers, but basically the main benefits of pursuing a circular economy model is so that companies can future-proof their company, improve their ability to predict their future, become resilient, and position the company for growth. So here are some particular business case benefits which could be available to your organization. First, of course, the opportunity to develop new markets and new customer segments and to retain and grow existing customer bases. Also, the opportunity to create a platform for continuous innovation and revenue generation. Companies that go this route often find that this is a lens for ongoing innovation in the company. And it enables the company to disrupt its own business and customer base ahead of its competitors. The possibilities exist to achieve cost savings, to increase security of supply and maintain access to resources, to improve price stability and the predictability of inputs, to enhance business continuity, attract, retain, and engage employees because they're very excited about these new business opportunities, to build brand and reputation, to attract partners and collaborators who want to work with you on these new business models, also to get ahead of government and investor requirements in this area, to strengthen supplier and customer relationships, basically satisfying changing customer needs and build value-added customer relationships. So those are many of the business case benefits to be had by companies that start to invest in what basically becomes a long-term course of innovation in a company and in its value chain. So now I'm going to take a few minutes to share with you from the research the ways by which companies are starting to pursue a closed-loop business strategy. And these ideas have come from the Transformational Company Qualities, Chapter 10, and also from the pending Circular Economy Toolkit for Business, which is a project of the National Zero Waste Council, and they're launching it in April in collaboration with Small Business BC. And it should be on their website in a month or two. So I'm going to, at a very high level, go over 3 top strategies from the early research and basically looking into areas of the value chain, into the design process, and stakeholder engagement and collaboration as sort of the 3 main pursuits of companies. So if you were to start a strategy in your own firm, you may want to consider the 5 business models I went over earlier. You may want to understand the risks to your current business model. And then you might well consider your own value chain, and I've got an illustrative visual here of a potential value chain. Here you might find yourself researching what are the opportunities for adopting circular economy approaches in your value chain up and downstream. You could ask yourself, are there inefficiencies and waste in the chain that you can minimize or eliminate through a closed-loop approach? You might want to research what value you could recover from the products your company has sold for the last 5 years, and even look into the question, if your company had to take all the products it sold, how would that affect design and production? At each stage of your product's journey, you could determine what physical inputs are required. You could inventory chemicals and materials, assess the nature and volume of the waste generated, and whether that can be monetized and perhaps may become useful to others. Definitely find out what materials are going to landfill and put a cost to them. What is the cost of disposing those raw materials? What is the cost it took to buy them, and quantify that and use that as a business opportunity to rethink your need for materials and rethink what you do with them at the end of your use of them. Doing so, by looking at your value chain in this way, will help you understand and prioritize the biggest impacts and financial opportunities, looking to see if there's a procurement alternative or perhaps the surplus can be upcycled. And for products that are landfilled, perhaps find out why. Has the user lost interest? Are there visual defects? Does it no longer function? Perhaps by understanding why a product is thrown out will give you insights into what improvements can be made. So you want to find the most important opportunities along your value chain where you can have the most impact, as not all loops will be easy or as important to close as others. And you might want to pick off some low-hanging fruit and possibly even prioritize your own brand products where you have direct responsibility, and also those with higher value materials or those where you have the right and sufficient volumes to make it efficient to close them. Lots of opportunity to consider the value chain, and a holistic approach would really have you look up and downstream of your existing operations. The second area of opportunity is to look at the design process, and this would be relevant for those companies who are involved in product sales. Here you could be looking at the design process of your suppliers or the design process of your own production cycles. Here are some of the top design questions relevant to the circular economy. I'll leave you just to sort of scan through that, but this is a checklist of the various ways by which your design engineers and innovation departments can consider how you can improve upon your products to make them relevant in a circular way. Just the last one I might highlight, design for attachment and trust. This is to possibly counter emotional obsolescence, so products are loved, liked, or trusted longer. So how can you design your product so your customer wants to stay attached to it over longer cycles? One example of a company I've been studying who's really trying to open up the design process is Philips. They're looking at pioneering circular economy innovation in the areas of healthcare, consumer lifestyle, and lighting. They have strengthened the circular criteria in their own production innovation process. Initially, they set a goal to incorporate up to 10% recycled materials in their portfolio of consumer products, and now they are upgrading their design rules to include the ease of repairing, upgrading, and to create a modularity in their products. They are embedding their circular economy principles right through strategies, business processes, metrics, and structures. And they've also established an internal center of excellence in the company, which is engaging every business unit to identify opportunities, design opportunities, and value chain opportunities. So it's quite a holistic approach and certainly a company worth watching. I'm just going to wrap up by making a couple of points about engaging stakeholders. And it's almost inevitable that any company that starts to pursue a circular business model will be involved in engaging one or more of these stakeholders you see here. Obviously, employees need to understand the business case for the circular business agenda. You need to be looking at how to include this in job descriptions, in training, incentives, etc. Employee communications are really critical. Suppliers, almost always, companies are needing to go upstream to collaborate with the suppliers in creating opportunities from the value chain, in reimagining the products and the product chain, and suppliers are, of course, critical to that. Oftentimes, of course, customers, your existing customers, you need to engage with them to be designing products that meet their needs. And when it becomes difficult to work independently on your own, you may find yourself collaborating with industry peers or with government to help create a level playing field and the policy environment that you need and regulatory environment that you need to move forward. So lots of future engagement as you go down this path. So I'm now going to hand over the webinar to Paul Murray and Amandine Johnson, both of whom are have much to share with you about how their companies have moved forward in this closed loop opportunity space. And Paul, over to you.
I appreciate being here today, and I think that we need to change it so that I can be the presenter. Sorry about that, I thought I'd hit the right button, but evidently had not. So as I was saying, we are trying to do our manufacturing process and work in general in a very holistic approach. So I will get to what we feel is the holistic approach, but it really starts with management support. And Cora, one of the maybe adds I would be is that it has to be the values of the company. And our CEO, when I first joined Shaw, I asked him what is his definition of sustainability in one of our meetings, and without any really prep, he went into about a 40-minute discussion with the leadership team about what sustainability meant to him. And you can see the outcome from that. Basically, the triple bottom line plus innovation, as you were saying. And so when you have senior management of a Berkshire Hathaway company saying, you shall do this as our sustainable business strategy. In other words, built into our business strategy is this focus on sustainability. So it really helps us move to that next level. Well, the level that we're talking about here is our model for the circular economy then. And I'm going to start this kind of discussion up at the top where you see design. And with design, we are doing cradle-to-cradle design, so it really makes you stop and focus about the material use that you're doing, how do you put it together, and how can it come apart as an end product. And so the engagement with cradle-to-cradle has been way back into the 2001, 2002 timeframe, and so it was even before I got here, and it was and is a mainstay of the way we approach doing business. You try to do everything, so you low energy, low water use, material chemistry, take back, all that's built into it. Well, again, we're vertically integrated, and sometimes your circular part of the nature of things, you sometimes have to also engage with other parts of the economy. Up there where it says post-consumer and post-industrial recycled content, just one little side note is that we use about 150 million pounds of pop bottles, soda bottles, PET. We make polyester fiber, which makes great carpet. So that's another way that we engage in another industry, not necessarily the carpet industry, but the beverage industry to help their circularity. Well, we then have 55 manufacturing facilities with 23,000 employees, and so we do have to worry about our suppliers and our energy and our virgin materials. On down to the distribution, we actually have about 1,300 vehicles or tractor trailers units out on the road delivering our products, so we have to worry about the fuel economy. Well then, you know, if you're in the United States, about 50% of residential carpet is manufactured by Shaw, and about 20 to 30% of the commercial carpet tile. So we really can divide our businesses into commercial and commercial and retail, residential use, and so we literally ship out between 8 and 10 million square yards of carpet a week. So that means a lot of people are walking our product, which means that it ends up a lot of used carpet out there, and that's where I'm really going to focus on today. With these two different types of carpet, they come apart differently. So you have the commercial carpet tile, which is heavier, has a heavier back on it, versus residential, which tends to be the fiber with the backing to hold it together, and then it's put over the top of a pad and stretched into your house. They come apart differently, but we have to have infrastructure to pick those up. So there's many, many small companies around North America that collect carpet and recycle it. Some of it comes back directly to Shaw, and other parts of it, other companies recycle it to make pads and mats and things. But we have to know that we have, going back to the design, we have to design it so that it has a good use in the end. So when it comes back to Shaw, what do we use it for? Well, we actually use a little bit of it coming back. The fiber is made into the darker fibers, and we can put it right back into the carpet. We use a lot, just as Accenture talks about the recovery and recycling, we actually recover energy from a 30 to 40 million pounds a year. And then we also recycle it back into plastics for the rest of the industry. And you know what? The little circle up at the top where it talks about market input, that's very important to us, because both in the initial design as well as at the end, our customers are telling us, as a company, it's good to get involved in the circular economy and do it correctly so that it will make their lives easier as well as the lives of the future generations. So how have we done? In 2006, we began our journey of taking back used carpet, and since then, with 2015 added to this, we're going to be right at 900 million pounds of post-consumer carpet. The number is just being tabulated and will be released in the next week. So how do we do it? I mentioned that there's two types of carpet out there. One is the harder, heavier product that's sold into commercial spaces. It's called our EcoWorks product. It was the first non-PVC carpet tile, and that polyolefin back is heavy, it's expensive, really makes sense for us to get it back. It's a great business decision, and you can see we put the 1-800-SHAW number. We want to recycle it. We want it back. So you call that number, and somebody will help you recycle that carpet. We'll bring it back, and we put it through a process called elutriation. Elutriation, basically, as this diagram shows, it starts out with the commercial carpet. It's shredded. It's then ground up into very, very fine particles, and basically acts like a milk separator. We use air and centrifugal force, and the heavies fall out, and the fiber floats. Those heavy materials are put right back into our carpet, and the fiber is used for the same way that I mentioned earlier. It can go back into dark colors or is used for fuel. So it does both. But we make the backing, the heavier parts, into a pellet, and it goes right back into making brand new carpet. So it really is a great business decision, and we want it back if you have some of those. Well, into 2015, I'm happy to report that we have moved to the next stage for recycling residential carpet. We are at a point where it should be about 70 million pounds by the end of the year. It's just coming up. It came out of the ground this past year, and it's in the shakedown. It's still at one shift and will be eventually 2 shifts. And basically it takes bales of carpet like you see here. This would be probably enough for about 2 days worth of running. And we have, to show that it is big equipment. It's not a little small operation. You take those bales, you break them apart, and then put it through the process. This is what we use to shred it. Now, if you've ever been through a junkyard where they use a shredder to shred a car, it's the same device. This piece of equipment could shred a car. Those pieces of steel are about 1.5 inches each, and they spin in opposite directions, and it tears the carpet up. Whoops, for some reason it went backwards. Sorry about that. And after the first process, the backing has been removed, and so now we're left with fiber. It then goes through an extrusion process. So what that means is it's been cleaned after the backing has been taken away from it. It's heated up, melted, and you end up with little pellets that are then sent out, and this is being sold into the automotive industry. It's being sold into some backing materials. So there's lots of use for what we would call engineered plastic. The nice thing about this device is that it can do both polyester and nylon type carpets, the two largest fibers used to make carpets, or especially residential carpets. So polyesters and the nylons are all being able to be consumed here, and we really look for this to be scalable, even though each one is $20+ million to put a unit together. But as soon as this one shook out, there's plans for number 2 and number 3. So in the end, then, hopefully you can see that Shaw has a holistic approach. I've kind of brushed over that, but the design process, the manufacturing process, that's all just as important as the end use. Because if you would be really hurting the environment as you made it, that'd be foolish as well. But we should be looking at what can we do with the end product. So that's my talk, and I'd like now to turn it over to Amandine.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amandine Johnson, and I am the Sustainability Officer here at Keilhauer. I will be discussing our strategies and achievements with regard to our sustainability program and our big-time corporate goal of closed-loop manufacturing. If you're not already aware, Keilhauer is a proudly Canadian, family-owned business that creates furniture to support people while they are engaging with others. Keilhauer products can be found in a wide variety of environments, such as in government offices, hospitality, healthcare, educational facilities, etc. Keilhauer was started by the Keilhauer brothers in June 1981. From its inception, making products with integrity and with respect to the environment and both the people who will make and use the product has always played a vital role. It was never considered as a competitive advantage, rather it was just the right thing to do. Following a top-down approach, this ethos transcends within the company where every employee diligently works at maintaining our sustainability projects. As the company grew, so did its commitment to the environment when a comprehensive sustainability program called Planet Keilhauer was formalized. At the center of this program is our big-time corporate goal of closed-loop manufacturing. Keilhauer defines achievement of closed loop when we use benign materials that have no impact on the environment or people throughout their life cycle, when we use 100% recycled content or rapidly renewable material in our products, when we create zero waste and zero water in our processes, when we are powered by 100% renewable energy, and when we have designated an end-of-useful life plan so that our products can be returned to the cyclical economy and back into our own products. I'm happy to report that we have achieved many of these goals, which I will discuss in upcoming slides. However, Keilhauer is actually right in the middle of its journey to closed-loop manufacturing. This puts us in a really unique real-time position to discuss our achievements and our strategy and our future goals. In order to drive Planet Keilhauer forward, Keilhauer implemented a sustainability policy. This document guides our entire workforce and also encourages our employees to take charge and be a part of the conversation and solution with regard to sustainability. Some key elements that are included in the policy are complying with the laws, rules, regulations, and industry standards, conducting business honestly and ethically, empowering employees to lead change, continually improving environmental performance and preventing pollution, and communicating this policy to all of our employees, contractors, and our stakeholders too. In order to drive changes within the development of our products, Keilhauer created the Design for Environment program. Members of this program span across many of our departments and include the President of Keilhauer, the VP of Manufacturing, the VP of Product Development, the Engineering Manager, the Scheduling and Materials Manager, the Logistics Manager, and of course the Sustainability Officer, who meet in various stages of the design to evaluate our new product impacts over their life stages, like material selection, packaging, transportation, end of life, etc. And this is shown on the image on the left where a life cycle approach is noted. This ensures that sustainability within our products is targeted early on. The combination of Planet Keilhauer, our sustainability policy, and the Design for Environment program has helped to build a symbiotic system, propelling and maintaining sustainability throughout Keilhauer. Now, we often see these beautiful infographics with how a closed-loop system should look like. However, at this stage, if we were to map it out, our closed-loop infographic looks a little bit more like this. This is a live system, meaning it is changing and improving over time and over completion of relevant projects. You can see that there are sub-circles or sub-loops within our closed-loop system. The diagram really shows the logistics behind accomplishing each project is really dependent on whether or not we have direct control over the system. For example, we can control many aspects to our energy use, therefore we can and we have excelled in this area. However, due to the nature of our business, and many other furniture manufacturers for that matter, although we can to a certain degree influence the raw materials in our parts, we do not have direct control over the entire system at this time. Therefore, we need to work within these parameters. This means where we have found we can create the biggest impact is when we focus on the sub-circle systems as we work closer to our overall goal of closed loop. In the next 6 slides, I will dive into the following sub-loop categories noted in the diagram from the left side to the right side: the supply chain, water use, energy use, output, transportation, and end of useful life. Each slide will highlight a couple projects that have been implemented and have assisted in moving us closer to achieving our overall goal. Let's start with our supply chain. We want to employ vendors that conduct business honestly and ethically and support our local economy where we can. Therefore, our vendors must complete a supplier assessment survey covering criteria such as social and sustainable responsibility so that we can make an informed decision about who we work with. We also work directly with our vendors so that we can specify the inclusion of recycled content and source raw materials from sustainable sources. As a result of this, we were able to launch our Juxta-tables as our first FSC certified product line. We are actively expanding this program to include 4 more products this year. And we are also able to create a system where our vendors send shipments in reusable containers that we can send back upon our next delivery. In fact, almost half of our vendor spend uses reusable containers. In our manufacturing facility, we have reached a near zero process water use. Water is only used to steam some lines of finished seats and to clean glue guns. In our quest to reduce this further, we measure our water use on an annual basis to understand how and where we use water and what influences the fluctuations. This way, we can implement initiatives to reduce our use. We also look beyond manufacturing and target our entire facility by installing low-flow toilets. Keilhauer is committed to measuring and managing our energy use, and we do this per month and per product in order to create a baseline to measure against to ensure that we are reducing our energy consumption annually. We also consider energy efficiency in our capital investments. For example, we just overhauled our lighting system in our production department this year, which accounts for a reduction in energy use by an estimated 10% or over 56,000 kilowatt hours. Since we are not able to produce our own energy on site at this point in time, we do purchase 100% renewable energy credits to offset 100% of our electricity use. Keilhauer has a comprehensive and newly redeveloped waste and recycling management system. Using the data from our annual third-party waste audits, we were able to focus on specific job functions and the resulting employee behavior so that we could tailor a system for each department. A new color coding system and new tailored signage that you can see shown in the image here was introduced and every employee was retrained. We now achieve an impressive 96% capture rate for all of our recyclables. Our unique textile recycling program was born when several furniture manufacturers of the area took off their competitive hats to come together to solve their common problem of what to do with all the residual textile scraps. By working together, the consortium was able to consolidate and create enough demand to recycle their textile waste together. In the first 6 months of the program, Keilhauer recycled 10,500 pounds of fabric. And any residual waste at Keilhauer is sent to a waste-to-energy plant in Ontario, which makes Keilhauer a zero-waste facility and ensures that the garbage that we really can't reduce, reuse, or recycle at this time still has some value through its conversion to energy. Back in 2005, our logistics manager noticed an opportunity which now impacts, on average, more than 70% of our orders. Rather than using single-use cardboard boxes, our products are wrapped in reusable blankets. In our last fiscal year, we blanket wrapped 73% of our orders and saved over 90,000 boxes. Since the program started, we have saved over 800,000 boxes. This initiative also eliminates the resources required to make the boxes, the residual waste, and it allows us to fit 25 to 50% more product on each truck, which really greatly cuts our greenhouse gas emissions. To ensure product stewardship, Keilhauer products are designed for a long-lasting life, with a 10-year warranty policy to back it. This ensures that products are well designed with parts that are replaceable. In addition, Keilhauer implemented a take-back program for one of its most iconic and popular seating products, the Tom chair. Keilhauer customers are invited to ship back any of the Tom chairs for full disassembly by Keilhauer, like you can see being done here in the images. This ensures that the effort is completed by our team and the parts are recycled in the appropriate stream. For customers who wish to recycle our products at home, Keilhauer currently has a publicly available end-of-product life document which is accessible through our website, and it describes the commonly used materials in Keilhauer products and how to recycle them. In the coming months, we will be actually updating this document with a step-by-step instruction on disassembling our products to really help facilitate easy recycling. The combination of these achievements and many more that we couldn't touch upon today, Keilhauer has been able to achieve an impressive lineup of environmental certifications and awards. All of Keilhauer products have been certified by SCS Global Services under the BIFMA level program and have achieved gold. And all of our seating has been certified by SCS Global Services under their indoor air quality program and have achieved Indoor Advantage Gold. Our simple task chair is Cradle to Cradle certified at the silver level, and our juxtatables are FSC certified. Keilhauer won the Canada's Greenest Employer Award for 2015, as well as the Recycling Council of Ontario Gold Award for Excellence of Commitment to a Sustainable Environment for both 2014 and 2015. So to conclude, the 6 subloop areas discussed today, the supply chain, the water use, energy use, output, transportation, and end of useful life, along with the policies and the programs that support these initiatives, are all vital components to achieving closed-loop manufacturing. The projects highlighted within these categories collectively bring us closer to achieving our goal, but of course we won't stop there. Moving forward, we plan to continue to push the boundaries of our system and look for opportunities for environmental improvement as we align our projects to full closed-loop manufacturing. We continue to empower our employees to lead change and to maintain an open dialogue in order to develop innovative solutions for closed-loop manufacturing and to maintain our position as a leader in sustainability. Thank you. Back to you, Coro.
Great. Well, those were 2 very inspiring presentations, and one thing that particularly struck me was how holistic both of these models are, and arguably these companies have been working on their closed-loop approaches for many years, but you can see what the potential is of that. And the other point that really struck me is the role of leadership to set the course for this kind of an ambitious program, plus all the branding, marketing, and reputational benefits that arise from these kinds of initiatives. So now I will turn it back over to Stephen and David to take us through any questions that you may have. What we see here on the screen are actually the 19 qualities of a transformational company, and you can see closed loop number 10 right in the middle. And this is a resource for you and your organizations if you're wanting to understand all the qualities of companies that are transforming their business models to become closed loop and inclusive and social purpose, and an opportunity for you to learn at a glance some strategies to advance your business models in the new economy. So David and Stephen, over to you.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Coro. And we're just starting to get some questions in the chat feature, so I would encourage you to submit your questions now so we can get to those. We've got about 11 minutes left until the top of the hour, and we'll likely wrap up at 2 o'clock, so thank you for joining us. Our first question comes for Fernando. The question is, I agree with the closed loop and circular economy. However, the way the current economy works, it measures success only based in growth and consumption based on the use of new natural resources. Should we change the way the actual economy works? So, fairly big question, but perhaps our panelists could speak to that within their own sector. Anybody want to tackle that one? It's a biggie.
This is Paul. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Paul. Please go ahead.
Okay. I would say that we are. I would say that every one of the people on the phone call, not just the panelists, but everybody that's listening, we are all in a journey, and we are changing the way the economy works. It does have to work the way it is, because you can't necessarily start doing things that are, where you lose money, and an empty building is not very sustainable. And so you do have to worry about that financial thing. And so we need to change the mentality of people using the fiber. I will tell you the biggest headwind for us this year is simply fuel economy, or the fuel prices. The price of oil has driven down the price of virgin materials so that they are less than anything that we produce in our facility to use. We still do it, but it's harder to do and it's limiting how much you can do until those fuel economies come back. However, we're still making headway, and we're still moving forward. So everybody, start asking for recycled content. Make sure that you look at that. Make sure that you look at companies that are doing holistic manufacturing, and that all changes the economy. Thanks.
Yeah, great point, Paul. We're obviously seeing lots of interesting work coming out of economists and the chartered accountants. I mean, how the economy is worked and structured, to Fernando's point, is also evolving as our manufacturers and service providers are changing the way their business takes place. So I would yes, both need to happen. Amandine, did you want to comment on that as well? Did you have anything to add, or should we move on to other questions? Coro, anyone else like to join in there?
Well, if I may just jump in on quality number 17, the finance community. That's in the bottom right. And it gives 6 pages of insights about how businesses can work with the financial community to collaborate and advocate for new financial systems. And there's lots of ideas in that little toolkit for how companies can be a force for change in that area. And, of course, I agree with everything that Paul's already said.
Great. Amandine, did you have anything you wanted to contribute there as well?
I think pretty much along the same lines as what Coro and Paul was saying as well. I think we'll start to see a bit of a shift in how we measure success just based on what the customer demands are. We're starting to see that expand quite a bit in our area here. So yeah, I do believe we will see quite a bit of a shift there.
Great. I do have some other questions coming in, so I'll move on to our next question. Next question is, to what extent did product certifications such as EPDs prompt the implementation of closed-loop strategies and processes within your organizations? So Paul or Amandine, I think, would be probably best for this question. Trustmark certifications, how important is that to you, and does that incent your customers to change behavior and shift products?
I'll let Amandine go first, and then I'll follow.
Okay.
Sure. The product certifications certainly are a good driver to how we align our business models and how we align sustainability. I think one of the main important things that come out of these certifications is the dialogue that really starts to come out of through both our sales reps, our customers, even our vendors. This discussion really starts to get stronger, and that does help to push our sustainability programs forward.
Great. Paul, did you?
Yeah, I'll just add quickly that Cradle to Cradle was one of the first marks on the market, and Shaw was the second company to join and has been a proud member of that community ever since. And we look for other people to join because it literally allows us to do everything from EPDs. It encourages life cycle analysis, which allowed us to do the EPDs, HPDs, declare, I mean, all the other certifications that are out there. If you've done Cradle to Cradle, those are easy. And so the driver was our company accepting Cradle to Cradle as a driver.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, in LEED, the Green Building Standard, when they updated the building standard recently to version 4, they have for the first time included the opportunity to get points for sourcing products in new buildings or renovations which have environmental product declarations, in which are declarations about the environmental impacts of your product. So it fits in under the transparency trend that we're seeing globally. So there now is a driver in LEED for environmental product declarations. And again, just because we're looking at the slide of the transformational company, we can see quality number 13, which is stakeholder accountability and transparency. And this is sheds light on the new drivers and trends towards more and more sustainability disclosures right along the value chain, beyond, if you will, CSR reporting, but disclosures along the value chain, and that's going to be a big sustainability driver going forward. So you can expect to see the likes of EPDs, and there's even discussion around, is it called an HPD, a health product disclosure or something? You're going to see more and more of these opportunities and expectations on the part of companies, on the part of customers, all enabled by technology, which is making this more and more possible and affordable.
Wonderful. And I like to hear a lot of the language around how these certifications were less about being trust marks and marketing tools and more about an intrinsic value to the organizational behavior and a deeper dive, as Paul referenced, with the cradle-to-cradle partnership. It really changed who you were as a company, and that's an interesting note. So we have a couple of more questions coming in. We've got about 4 minutes left, so that might be an appropriate amount of time. This one is actually for you, Paul, at Shaw. Do you contact your customers to incent them to recycle, considering that after installing the carpet, they will get rid of the packaging? Do they get incentives such as discounts if they do recycle? Interesting. So the consumer engagement component and incenting and changing behavior, but also obviously changing your model slightly as well to suit a recycling take-back program.
If any Shaw salesperson's on, please plug your ears. No, I'm kidding. On the commercial side, because they're usually fairly large projects, they work with our salespeople, and there's a negotiation that goes on about this. Again, we do have the 1-800 guarantee, so it's guaranteed if it's less. But if it's less than 500 square yards, then that's when they need to work with our supplier or our salesperson. On the residential side, you know, when mom and dad walk into Home Depot, they're worried about color. They're not worried about some of the things that we're talking about here. And so we're really concentrating on the end owner of that residential carpet, and that's the carpet installers, and trying to get them to deliver it to these recyclers around the country, some of which will sell back to us, some that will sell it locally and make, you know, like in Indiana, they make horse riding stable bedding out of the carpet. So it's got varied use in its end product.
Wonderful.
And if I may just highlight the point that Paul just made about concentrating on the carpet installers, you can see by that example that Shaw has really looked and understands its value chain, the upstream and downstream impacts and use of its products very well. And so they've obviously have prioritized not the customer in this case, but the installer. So that sort of suggests this kind of value chain model, why it's very important to consider your value chain. And for advice on that, now I'm going to sound like a broken record, but number 12 is one of the qualities of a transformational company. You can see there's lots of ideas in that little guide on how you can start to analyze and improve the impacts of your value chain. So that'll give you some helpful hints there, I think.
Great, thank you, Coro. And sort of while we're talking about business models, there was another question posed around a shift towards a more service-based economy. I think I'm guessing from this question they're talking a little bit about the sharing economy and about sort of leasing versus sort of outright ownership. I wondered if Keilhauer or Shaw had a comment on does your business model have the room to flex and shift around that leased opposed to owned, so that you have sort of total control of the product from cradle to cradle? Is that something you're looking at, or do you see your peers moving in that direction as well?
I think every company is out there looking at a model of service that is very tough in the built environment because of people understand leasing a car and having an asset that's worth something at the end of the lease. That's why the lease works. When it comes to a building product, it's tougher in that most of these do not have value at the end of its useful life, as we've already talked about the price of oil. So it's a tougher model, but we continue to look at it and explore it, and maybe someday.
Okay, that's an honest question.
I agree on that point as well. In terms of for Keilhauer, we are starting to align ourselves with more service-based companies just in the way that we design our products. So they're designed to have a 10-plus year life cycle using quality materials. And we do start to look at taking back our products, like our Tom Take Back program. So really now it's more aligning how we would actually implement and how it affects our business within the production and how we would accommodate that kind of a cycle. So it is something that's definitely on our radar. It's just step by step moving toward it.
Thank you very much. Okay, it is now 2:01. I'm going to pose one last question. I know we started a couple of minutes late, so I apologize if you didn't get your question addressed, but we'll have to wrap it up after this question. So this is a good one because it kind of forces us to think outside of our presentation today a little bit. Both of the current examples, both industry examples, present durable, high value, and long-lived products, which is great. And this delegate's actually saying kudos. However, there's this group represents a relatively narrow segment of the economy. What happens when we get out into the other sectors and the other categories? And you use an example of packaging, and the grocers and brands tend to not like deposits and take-back programs, energy consumer products, automobiles, this sort of thing. Looking for some examples of sort of closed loop outside of these economies. So what are some of our peers doing, and perhaps how do we address closed loop in some of these sectors that are a little more challenging? Not to say that furniture and carpet doesn't have its own challenges, but I think I get what this individual is getting at, where either the regulatory environment is less favorable, or perhaps they're a fairly high output industry, for example. Any thoughts there? I might actually put that one over to Coro as a kickoff.
We are, as we know, at the frontier of a new paradigm in business. I'm sure we can all today imagine a future where whether it's a biological material or a technical material, gets repurposed and reused at the highest and best value for the long term. So we're at the frontier of that, and we're just only now starting to develop the business case in the government regulation, and we're actually starting to see more and more of that with extended producer responsibility regulation, et cetera. So with the emergence of the business case, more companies will start to move into this opportunity space. And what we can definitely expect, especially as we're talking consumer retail products, is that with millennials, there'll be more and more demand on the part of companies and brands to be active in the circular space. It will be difficult for them to attract and keep employees, new talent, the best talent. It will be difficult to compete if they've got others in their category who are moving in this space. So I think that we're not going to see this happen overnight. I mean, we have seen some business models that have maybe been 10 years in the making, and we've also heard them talk about how it's a quest for continuous improvement. The product as a service, not quite there yet, looking at it, when will that become possible for these two companies? So it is a journey, and we can expect that as commodities become more expensive, as there's peak resources are challenged with 59 billion people on the planet by 2050, all seeking our quality of life, that we're going to come against some real constraints, which are going to drive imperatively a new business model. So it's not going to happen overnight, but we can certainly imagine that it's inevitable.
Yes, and I think that's an excellent place for us to wrap up. Thank you so much, Coro. Paul, Amandine, thank you for your perspectives from Shaw and from Keilhauer. That was enormously helpful. As I said, this was a really well-received event. We will be redistributing this as in the form of a video recording, so we'll be sending that to our panelists for review and approval, and then sharing that with those of you that were on the call today. So thank you for your questions. Apologies if we didn't get to yours specifically. You're welcome to email us directly, info@cbsr.ca, and we'll see if we can get those questions answered for you offline. Thanks again, everyone, and look for our next Transformational Company webinar coming up very soon. Thanks again.